Just waiting for the live stream to kick in. This is so weird because I have this going on and then I'm doing the live stream in another window. And like, I have to make sure I'm checking the live stream because people might be asking questions. And I can hear myself on the live stream. That's great. Okay. Welcome to Survivors Connection 2021, everyone. This is an event being hosted by loudmouthbrowngirl.com. It is the very first live stream event that Loudmouth Brown Girl is doing for the first time in 4 years. And I'm super excited. My co-host is Karen Unruh from England, who is, I remember when I first met Karen about a year ago, and I just remember thinking, oh my God, she is like a mental health guru. Like she's got all her shit together. And then we talked for the first time and I went, this woman is nuts and I love it because I'm nuts. And that means that you can be nuts and happy at the same time. And that made me really excited because I thought you could only be nuts and miserable. And it turns out that I was very wrong. Tonight's event is a 2-hour-long conversation about mental health. We will not be talking about our trauma, but we will be talking about the result of our trauma and how it's affected our lives. I myself am a victim of religious rape, cult rape, and gang rape, as well as child sex trafficking and kidnapping. And it took me a very, very long time to come forward and admit that all of that stuff had happened, first of all. And then when I did, I was called psychotic and I was put in a mental hospital and medicated. And it took me an even longer time to realize that I wasn't psychotic. I'm not crazy. These things did happen to me. And phrases like, I believe that you believe it happened, are signalers that the people who I'm talking to don't necessarily know what it means to deal with complex trauma and child abuse. And so through Loudmouth Brown Girl, I have been sharing my experience and learning to heal. I am not healed by any stretch of the imagination, but I am healing. And that is a huge conversation starter for me because I didn't think that I would. For years, I was stuck in this phase of, I'm never going to get better. I'm never going to be happy. I'm going to be alone forever. And I recently realized that I actually like being alone, which is quite nice. And when the time comes, I will find somebody. But until then, I have all this amazing time to heal and to grow. I'm going to, before we go any further, because I meant to do it earlier, but I forgot because I'm nervous. I just want to take a moment to recognize the more than 800 children who have been found on Indigenous lands across Canada and Saskatchewan and Kelowna, British Columbia. We want to respectfully acknowledge that the land upon which we gather, live, and connect is the traditional and unceded territory of the Coast Salish peoples, specifically in Surrey, BC, where I'm from, the Kwantlen, the Katzie, the Semiahmoo, and the Tsawwassen First Nations. And we want to dedicate this entire evening and this entire conversation to the Indigenous communities of Canada because they have suffered so much when it comes to child abuse and trauma and homicide. So with that all being said, we'll take a moment of silence and then Karen will introduce herself. Karen, my love, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, I just want to add something to what you were saying that you didn't actually go ahead and say, and I know is true about your situation, is that even though nobody believed you, what has transpired since and more recently is that your story has been validated.
Yes.
So, you know, I just wanted to put that out.
In some ways it has, yes.
Yeah. My name's Karen and I am here tonight from England. It is 1:30 in the morning where I am.
And you look amazing. The fact that you dressed up to be here at 1:30 in the morning is so great.
I was doing my makeup and I thought, gosh, there was a time I was doing this to go out partying. Anyway, I am a recovery mentor in mental health and have worked in that role for 20 years. 15 of those years were spent doing the work in a London charities, mental health charities. I myself have complex PTSD from, well, not just childhood trauma, but right through from childhood to adolescence and then into an abusive marriage. And I have spent the last 30 years, I went 28 years undiagnosed, or misdiagnosed. And the last 10 years have been years of healing because I actually found a trauma specialist who was able to diagnose me. And I've been on that tough journey. But yeah, I'm learning to thrive, not just survive. And it's possible.
Tiara, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us where you're from?
My name is Tiara Atoigui. I am from the island of Guam, but I live in Spokane, Washington, and I am a housekeeper at a casino.
Wendy would introduce herself. Oh, sorry, go ahead. Were you still talking?
I was just going to ask, what else should I say?
Whatever you'd like, whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay,
Your introduction.
I'm really nervous. I don't know. I'm autistic. I have depression. I have OCD. I have anxiety. And I have childhood trauma.
Tough gig.
Thank you, love, for sharing that. Wendy would introduce herself, but apparently her microphone is just not working tonight. So if we can see her beautiful face though, and I'm very excited about that because for those of you that don't know, without sharing her story, I will say Wendy is one of my trauma support superheroes, and I can call her at 10 at night and we talk until 2 in the morning about what we're going through, and we resonate with each other. And I really appreciate that she is my cheerleader in many ways. And she's a local, which is also very cool. I can't see what that said.
I can't see her.
She's typing. Karen, would you like to introduce yourself, or are you just going to hang out?
Sure. My name's Karen, and what am I supposed to say? Just what I have, or?
You can just introduce yourself however you're most comfortable.
Okay. I have bipolar type 2, generalized anxiety disorder, OCD, but that's not really bothering me so much right now, and major depressive disorder, which is, linked to bipolar type 2.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot, and I'm, kind of going through a lot right now, but that Karen knows a lot about, but it's, you go through bumps and bruises, but it, you just have to ride it out. And so, you know very well that you come out better on the other side and stronger on the other side every time.
I really appreciate you all being here because we all are similar in that we're dealing with mental health issues, but we all come from the spectrum of mental health at different ends and different areas, and we all have different reasons for why our mental health is the way that it is. I just want to, because I'm a cheese ball, and because every Zoom chat I've ever had that we talk about mental health, we've done breathing exercises. So I thought we would start the evening off with, oh, sorry, Wendy, go ahead. If you want to, your mic's working, go ahead. Introduce yourself. Can you hear me? Uh-oh. What's a live stream without a few issues?
I know, right? Oh my gosh.
Okay. Not
Okay,
quite
can you guys hear
Oh,
me now?
hello,
Yes.
Wendy.
Okay. But I'm watching you from YouTube, so I don't know what the fuck is going on. You can hear me,
good, she
right?
swore.
Yes,
the
we can hear
first
you.
fuck.
Hi.
Or no?
Yeah, I can hear you. Hi.
I can hear you.
I know. Can you guys hear me though now?
Yep.
Yes.
Or no?
Yes.
Oh, I'm so sad.
Oh.
Anyways,
Okay, so we're
Is she
gonna
going to
start.
introduce herself?
Oh yes, introduce
Wendy,
yourself. Unless you want, or if you want. No.
do you have the Zoom chat open?
yes. I'm happy. Okay. I don't know what to do.
Introduce yourself, love.
Okay, just one sec. I'm gonna pause. Okay, I'm gonna try again.
Everything's
Can
fine.
you guys
can
hear
see
me
you
now?
and
Say
hear
yes
you.
or
Yes. Yes.
yeah?
Yes.
Okay, this is, anyways, I'm just gonna talk because there's a delay from the other part of it. So I'm just gonna go ahead and talk if that's okay. Someone can stop me if you want. Just put your hands up if you want me to stop talking. Is that cool?
Okay.
Yeah.
You're cool with that? Okay. My name is Wendy. I'm also a local. I have had a lot of early childhood trauma. I didn't realize what it was until recently. Like, you know, there was a big traumatic event that really defined me and basically ruined my life. But the rest of the stuff, the relational trauma, was only stuff I sort of started discovering. I come from a family of refugees from communist Europe, so really difficult that they pass stuff on. But anyways, I'm just so grateful to be here, and so grateful for Devon to have connected with her, and Karen. The few times I've connected with you online has been great, and I just appreciate being here and whatever capacity I can help. Although I'm delayed by the volume, so I'll figure something out. And over to you guys.
Thank you, Wendy. I'm so glad that you're here. And I'm glad that I get to see your face because I've only seen it through your Twitter icon. So we're going to start with a breathing exercise. I have 10 affirmations, and so I will say them out loud, and then you can repeat them in your head, or you can repeat them out loud if you would like to. And I just want us to, this is going to be a heavy conversation, so I just want us to take some time to decompress and relax and just breathe. Okay? So you're going to breathe in and hold it for 3 and then release it for 3. Got it? Okay. So the first one is, I am prepared to use my voice to fight back. I am strong. I am wise. I can do this. I am free of the past. I deserve to move forward. I was strong enough to survive. I am strong enough to thrive. I deserve peace and joy. I do not have to be strong all the time, which is my favorite affirmation in the history of time, because sometimes I just like to cry and scream like a baby. And I am allowed to feel, which is something when we're dealing with mental health issues, we're often told, put it away, stick it in a box, put it in the closet, let it go, move on, get over it, all that crap. But we don't actually let ourselves feel what it is we're feeling. So I have some questions here.
Okay, it's working now, just so I can say I'm now in real time and I'm not in the past anymore. Holy fuck. I'm sorry. I've done it interrupting. Go ahead.
Feel free, by the way, if you need to swear. If you got to get it out, I get it. It's good.
Okay.
Some of
I
these
just want to
stories-
let you guys know.
Yep.
I just want to let you guys know that you're actually time traveling, because I am 8 hours ahead of you. So I know what's happening today.
I love it. I love it. Can I call you the doctor?
5 hours ahead of me.
She is a bit like the doctor, isn't
A
she?
mad woman in a blue box?
Yeah.
What? Mad woman.
Matt Smith, Dr. Who.
All right. I'm not touching with that. That was a 10
Okay.
foot.
I am definitely a mad woman, yes. Okay.
Okay, so I have some questions that we're going to go through. And again, this is a conversation that I'm going to be sending out to therapists and psychiatrists and doctors, because frankly, I'm really tired of the way that they look at people who have mental health. I'm really tired of hearing, I believe you believe it happened, or shit like,
I
you
believe
are
it was
strong.
traumatizing to you. I'm just like, okay, thank you. But can you just say that was traumatizing and a crime? Please just say that.
Right. Like, there are laws against rape and sexual abuse and trauma. And I feel like too many times doctors would rather give you a pill or put you in a hospital than help you fight to make sure your perpetrators end up in prison where they belong. So the first question is one that we have all heard 100,000 times. It's the most annoying question in the history of mental health. But here goes. Why did you not tell somebody when it was happening? And feel free to jump in wherever.
Because my mom would have worked my ass.
What'd you
There
say?
go.
And also
What's
for
up?
me, sorry, have you more to say to it?
Oh, I thought somebody was responding to me. I'm sorry.
I didn't hear what you
That's
said.
okay.
I didn't hear what you said, TR.
My mom would have whooped my ass.
Oh,
My mom was the one who put me in
Yeah.
the childhood trauma. My mom.
Oh, right.
I'm an
Damn.
adult now and she can't hurt me anymore, but thinking about it for a long time.
That's hard when it's so close to home.
I'm done. You guys can go.
For me, it was shame.
Yeah.
I was, I only have realized over the last 10 years that it was actually unintentional childhood abuse, which was religious abuse, that was a lot of my early trauma. But actually in my domestic abuse, in my marriage, it was the shame. I mean, I've read letters that I wrote home from America. I lived in America, I married an American, that, sound like I'm having a fairy tale. And it was all delusional in that I was just not talking about how I was feeling because I felt such shame.
Shame is a heavy blanket.
Yeah.
Like it's brutal. I mean, I am still trying to shake that off. And like for me, because my particular sexual trauma as a 3-year-old, my mom witnessed it and didn't really realize what it was.
Right.
Extremely traumatic.
Jeez.
And I thought she made him do it. And so I obviously had no one to tell until I was 16 and someone had brought up this thing that I'd forgotten. When I was in abusive relationships, namely like the last one with my son's father, I didn't really know what was going on. Like I knew when it reached the point where he threatened to hit me, I knew I needed to leave. I didn't realize what he was doing to me sexually was abuse and rape. I didn't realize that until 3 years ago. I left him 18 years ago when my son was 1. So, but yeah, I mean, I told people that he threatened to hit me. I told my parents, or my dad, because my mom was living in Europe at the time. I connected with the rape center that I had volunteered at, and they helped me a little bit. But it wasn't until recently that I could actually realize and admit that what he'd done was actual marital rape, right? And So yeah, but a lot of it is shame, you know, and you think, okay, I'm out of that scenario now, or whether you're in it, you just don't want to be seen as weak, because we've all been told, get over it. What's your problem? Why can't you leave? You just have to do what you're told. You're the wife or spouse or husband, and this is what's expected of you. So it's a societal construct of what we're supposed to do, and we know it's all wrong. So
and also we carry shame because the perpetrator of the abuse makes us feel what they should be feeling, which is shame. They put it onto us.
Unworthy, like my ex destroyed my worth as a woman.
Karen and I were talking about this yesterday, because I had tweeted out that if you want loyalty, you have to be the kind of person that earns it. And a lot of the abuse that I experienced came at the hands of gangbangers, who now, like, they're out on the street telling everybody that'll listen that I'm a rat. And it's like, well, you all ganged up and drugged and abused and raped me. Like, you don't get loyalty when you go out of your way to destroy my life.
Yeah.
I didn't tell people because I was disloyal. I told people because I wanted out, because I didn't want you in my life anymore. And the only way to escape you being in my life was to say, these are horrible people who have no concept of how to treat women or how to treat children or how to treat other people. And I walked away from that situation in shatters. I ended up quitting my job. I lost all my friends. To this day, all my friends are online. I had to cut everybody out of my world because everybody was interconnected, because I live in a really small city and everybody knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. And when I was going through it, I didn't know how to say I had been raped, I had been abused. The phrase religious abuse or cult rape or the word rape was completely foreign to me. It was a totally different language that nobody had ever taught me. Because back in the 90s and the 80s, we didn't talk about mental health. We didn't talk about rape and trauma. We didn't talk about marital rape. We didn't talk about spousal abuse. And so that language wasn't being passed around to the general public. So it's only in the last like 20 years that we've been having this conversation, and that people like myself or Karen or Wendy or TR or Karen have been able to come forward and be like, hey, yo, that happened to me. And it's only because of chats like Sex Abuse Chat, run by Rachel Thompson, I think it is, on Tuesday nights at 6 p.m. Make sure you check it out. It's a great chat. That was the very first time that I was like, whoa, I'm not alone.
Yeah, totally. Although it took me like half a year to be brave enough to join.
I remember meeting you. That's how we met.
Oh my God.
Wendy.
Yeah.
And
I was so fucking scared to write the hashtag.
Yeah.
I was scared someone would know my secret. Sometimes I still worry, but like, oh my God, what a community. I just have to say, I always thought Twitter was, like everyone said, Twitter was full of garbage until I stumbled upon our little corner, and I'm like, holy crap, this is the most beautiful thing I've ever experienced.
Yeah. It's such a wonderful tribe, isn't it?
Oh my God. It is. It's validation, it's community, it's support.
Yes.
It's belonging, which is taken from us when we're traumatized, especially children. We don't feel like we belong anywhere. We're on the periphery. We're not our authentic selves. We're doing what we can to survive and to police the people who are going to hurt us. So to find people who go, yes, I know what this feels like. I'm not alone. There's incredible healing in that. Like,
absolutely.
You know.
I remember I came out of my marriage after 10 years, having to escape America with my son, who was 2. And I didn't believe I was an abused wife. I believed I was a failed wife.
Yeah.
And so I didn't think that I deserved any kind of counseling, or, you know, this was my just desserts.
Yeah.
I had deserted. And then a few years later, I contacted a women's shelter just to ask them for any information around, you know, abusive relationships. And they sent me a package. And when I opened it, there was a booklet And on the front of the booklet, it said, if you hadn't behaved badly, I wouldn't have had to punish you.
Oh.
And I just burst into tears because I thought, other people have had that said to them.
Wow.
Somebody gets it. And I cried for hours, realizing actually
Yeah.
I was abused. I wasn't
Oh,
just a
my
failure.
Oh,
That's
heart.
the part that I get really frustrated with, when abusers turn around and behave like their abuse is a punishment for our behavior.
They
Yeah.
turn it
And
around
I
back on
feel
you.
like, go ahead, Karen.
They turn it around back on you.
Oh yeah, narcissists do that with
And
a passion.
And it's about it's about guilt and shame, and then the abusers turn it around back on you because I've been, sexually abused. I'll admit I was drunk in college, but I'm 99% the guy raped me. 99% sure the guy raped me. And when I confronted him at a party in college, all my sorority sisters said, oh, well, it was a group of them. They kept saying, oh, well, it's just a one night stand. It's just a one night stand. And I got so furious that apparently I had, went nuts on myself, went nuts at the party. And that's all I carried with me for all my life. And when I finally started getting therapy later in life, and then I told some of my therapists, but I went to an OCD specialist once.
Yeah.
And I told her, and you know what the reaction she had? She said, well, all girls in college do that. It's no big deal. It's no big deal.
What?
I was so shocked that I didn't see her the next week, but I went back to her the next week because I'd gotten some advice from people. And so I went back to her and I went, I told you that and your response was that basically that I didn't, I deserved it. And she said, I don't remember saying that.
Oh my God.
I don't think I would have said that.
wow.
I said, you
It's
said
that
it.
part where when you talk to mental health professionals, right?
Yeah.
First of all, I want to talk about the phrase mental health professional.
Right.
What the fuck qualifies you to tell me how to deal with my trauma?
I want to know, my first question with a mental health professional, whether it be a psychiatrist, whether it be a therapist, whether it be a psychologist, my first question, I want to know how to put it exactly. Like, what have you been through in your life to make you
Well, that's
qualify?
the part.
Yeah.
I want to know, have you
Totally.
been raped? Have you dealt with cult rape?
But how do you
dealt
put
with,
how do you,
hold
how
on
do you
one
put
sec.
it?
Have you dealt with severe trauma yourself?
Right.
Or alternatively, does your experience come from the classroom? Because if your experience comes from the classroom, but your patient's experience comes from personal, deep-seated, severe abuse and trauma, how do you go from being, I know this because I've read books in a classroom, right, to I can connect to you because you have actual experience? Now, when I think it was in 2017, I got arrested for having a panic attack on an airplane. I was one of 2 Black women on the airplane. And I was thinking about this last night and I realized the reason that I had the panic attack was because I didn't want to come home. And I told you this, Karen, it was the first time in my life that I had gone on a trip as an adult, but more importantly, it was the first time I'd ever asked a man for permission to go. And it wasn't my boyfriend, it wasn't a lover, but it was somebody in a gang who I felt I needed to ask permission from because he was part of the group of boys that I was involved with as a child. And he said yes. And I left. And on the way back, I realized I don't want to come home because if I come back to BC, I have to deal with all of this, right? And I was trying to procrastinate from coming home. And that was the panic attack. And when I got home, I said to my mom, I need help. And I have spent every day since 2017 trying to find a mental health expert who can help me deal with my trauma. And everyone I have talked to has said, you are beyond what I am capable of doing.
That's hard to hear, isn't it?
It's
I mean, that
bullshit,
removes
though.
your hope.
It's
Or
bullshit.
they've gone into the, I believe you believe it happened, but I don't necessarily believe it happened. So there's two ends of the spectrum, right? There's the, I can't help you because I just don't have the experience, or I don't have the experience and I'm going to deny what actually happened to you because that's what makes me more comfortable. And that's where I'm like, how can you be a mental health expert?
If you're a mental health expert, then you're more than capable of helping someone. If you call yourself a mental health expert, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
then why can't you help someone? You will do your best to help someone.
And learn. Like, I've had conversations
Yeah.
with my therapist, and he's like, yeah, when he gets stuck with me, he goes, this is a learning process for me. I'm going to go and research how I'm going to help you. And
Exactly.
I'm like frustrated because I'm like, what? You don't fucking know it? Because the therapist
we
they
go
had,
in expecting that they have all the answers because they are the mental health professional.
if they've been
right?
in that field for 15 years, but mind you, I mean, it's true. It's an ever learning. The therapist I had at the hospital was fantastic, but I was too fucking scared to say anything to her, so I just kept it to this one guy who was jerking me along and talking about him and avoiding the trauma from childhood and just giving her bits and pieces because it was too fucking scary. And I'm like, shit, I wasted so much time because I only had an X amount of sessions with her, and I realized she was so on the ball with everything, but whatever. But I mean, therapists are human too. My therapist has said things to me where I thought about it over the week and come back to him and said, what the fuck did you say to me, man? And then he realized, I'm so sorry. I should not have said that. I had a moment of being human. And if they're, like Karen, your therapist who said that fucking, I never said that. That's bullshit. Own up to your shit.
She did apologize. She said, well, I'm sorry if I did say it.
Okay,
but
good.
That's still like a backhanded, like.
Exactly. Don't say, I don't think I said that.
But she said that first, right?
I know. And I'm like, no.
You did say a bit. Like,
I remember.
Second of all, it doesn't matter how much you drink or not drink or whatever. Right. Like you can take consent away at any moment during the act. Yeah. And you have a right, and it's still rape, whether it's at the beginning or the middle, right?
Right.
So
and that's the part.
People are not informed about that. And I'm like, that's
when we drink too much and we get into a situation where I remember one night it happened. I had too much to drink and I said no. And the guy said, don't we deserve this? And I thought at the time, I was like, oh, that's so sweet. Like he's actually, and then I looked back and I wrote a blog post about like, well, yeah, don't I deserve to be with the good looking guy who wants me and who wants to like make me feel good? And then I'm like, wait a minute. No, motherfucker. No, I said no. And I did not want this. And you went ahead anyway.
Coercion, manipulation is still rape.
And that's the part. That's the part where it's like, there's all these, when we go to these mental health experts, there's all these questions. Did you say no? Were you drinking? What were you wearing? None of these things matter. The moment that you say, no, I don't want this, is the moment that consent has been removed.
Or any variation of it. I don't think so. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
If you say I'm not sure, then
it's not an indefinite.
Yeah, and it's not an invitation for someone to say, well, it'll feel good. Like, come on, let's try.
Yeah.
It's like, I mean,
that's coercion.
And that's for anything. And I love this British consent cartoon where it's teaching consent with a cup of tea.
Yes.
And it's so fucking clear. Like if someone says, I'm not sure if I want tea, you don't go, here, drink up.
Oh, that was the best. That's the best. Yeah.
Right?
Okay, so
going back to the mental health professional thing, I am very lucky in that I stumbled upon, it was just like pointing at the page to pick a therapist, I didn't scout her out or anything, but I 10 years ago began working with a therapist, and what she is doing now, she's one of these therapists that doesn't disclose about her own personal life, though she has inferred that she has known difficult times herself, but I don't know. any details, but I think that is very true, because she's highly, highly trained. And what she does is she started doing, and she's got me involved, which is brilliant. She does a 6-month, one weekend, every weekend for 6 months. Trauma therapists take this extra to their degree. It's an actual qualification, but it's how best to be there and to speak into the lives of trauma patients. And what she does at the end session, is she has myself and 2 other of her clients who have come a long way. You know, we're not messed up still, in the sense that we've got something to talk to offer in this scenario. Yeah. And she has us talk individually, one after the other, to her class about what we need when we go to see a trauma therapist, and what affirmation we need, and what works for us from a trauma specialist. You know, don't say X, please say Y, you know, whatever. And I'm thrilled that somebody within the profession, and more therapists, I think, are realizing this. Look, we don't know everything. We need to hear from the patient. We need to hear from a client. And they recognize that we are experts by experience, which is a very well-known phrase here in mental health in England. And they will actually use clients who have come into a level of recovery in work, in advocacy, and all that sort of thing. And we are called experts by experience, which I think is brilliant.
I agree. TR, go ahead. You wanted to say something?
I was just going to say, I have had really good counselors in the past. Like when I was a kid, I had a really great counselor. I had him for a few years, and then when I, for a lack of better word, escaped from my mom, I had a really bad counselor, and he was so bad that I just haven't done therapy again.
Oh wow.
And that's the scary part. And that's the thing that professionals don't understand. When you are somebody who's been traumatized, right? Whether it's sexual abuse, physical abuse, spiritual abuse, mental abuse, when you've been traumatized and your counselor or your trauma therapist or whoever isn't aware of how to handle your specific trauma, the damage that they can cause can be exponentially worse than the original abuser to begin with.
Yeah.
Many of my
clients get too afraid to come forward and talk to anybody else. I had a counselor who, the first time I met her, she was talking about this soldier who hugged his feelings. And I'm like, lady, I work in downtown Surrey, and this is where I work. I worked with people who were living in addictions. Wendy will understand because she works near, not too far from downtown Vancouver, actually. And
downtown you said the worst concentration of drug addiction and abusers in the world,
which is where my mom works,
right where I work.
And so it is literally the worst in the world. It is categorized as one of the most dangerous places on the planet to go, especially at night for women, because of the amount of drug addiction and drug use that happens down there. And I said to her, if I were to tell any one of my people, go hug your feelings, they would slap me. You need to explain to me what that means. I don't understand what you're saying. And again, this was coming from somebody who didn't know the language. I didn't know the lingo. And she just kept saying, hug your feelings, hug your feelings. And she chased me out of her office, yelling this at me. And my dumb ass went back. And I was like, I still don't get it. Like, I need you to explain it to me. Now, 15 years later, I get it. Get in touch with your feelings. Let yourself cry. Let yourself feel.
Yeah, but don't say hug your feelings. Like
that just
I'm
makes
sorry.
You more
like
confused.
I'm a gang girl in
totally
like
confused.
One of the most dangerous places in the world.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean shit to me.
No, I mean, but in somatic experiencing, which is what I'm doing, it's not necessarily hug your feelings, but like as trauma survivors, especially when it happens in childhood, or with intimate personal relations, we push down our feelings, and so it's scary to allow them. And so what the goal of trauma therapy in a lot of aspects is to allow that feeling, sit with it. Yes, it's going to be uncomfortable as fuck. I was doing this on Friday, it was awful. You're going to feel like you want to throw up and stuff like that, but then it moves. And so like in the beginning, I'm like, this is stupid, I don't like this. And now I totally realize that actually most of the day when I'm feeling bad, I talk to myself in my head.
I do it out loud.
To my inner child, like, yeah, I know you feel kind of sad.
I do it out loud. And I tell my inner child to go fuck herself sometimes when she's overreacting.
Oh.
I tell her to calm the hell down. I tell her to laugh more. I hug her. I yell at my abusers at the top of my lungs when my mom's not home. There are construction workers that have been here forever and they will never leave. They will be here until I die at this point. And
Yep.
they call me the angry stoner because I crank the heavy metal and they can hear me screaming. And when they ask me what's wrong, I'm like, I'm just working through some shit, man.
That's a good
I'm just doing the thing.
Yeah.
My therapist. Yep.
Sorry, go on, Tia.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to add to what I said before. My really good therapist was a man, and my really bad therapist was a man. And after my really bad therapist, I just I never want to have another male therapist again.
And how long ago was
Okay.
this?
That's okay.
How long ago was this?
I'm kind of ashamed because I am a man, and I don't have very good interactions with women. But I actually trust women more than I trust men.
It might be more healing, and that's why I'm working with a male therapist, because I'm fucking petrified, men. And I thought maybe it would help me learn to trust that there's more healing men out there. I have a good friend who's a man who refuses to see male therapists. So he only will see women, and that's totally okay. And I think a lot of that is women can be more maternal and more soft and more loving.
Empathetic.
Male therapists can kind of be, and I said this to mine, I'm like, you're kind of like pushing me like a big brother, and I don't like that. Like, you know, he's very gentle, but they can be, you know, rah rah sis boom ba, and then push you a little bit further than you need to. So I mean, if you're comfortable when you're comfortable, I would say seek out a female therapist for sure. And because I know, I can hear that you want to, and I wonder if there's anything that you took from your good therapist that you can write down for yourself to kind of go over and reinforce your goodness. Right?
I will say, TR, I stopped seeing a male therapist for the same reason. He was a psychiatrist and he was terrible. And I now am seeing a female psychiatrist with the same last name, although they're not married, which is very weird. Okay. They're not even related. And she's lovely, but she's a psychiatrist, not a therapist, right?
Yeah, they just
so in terms of gender, right, Tiar, I totally get why you might be uncomfortable. Like that's a trigger for you, right? I will say I would seek out some form of counseling or therapy because we've had quite a few conversations and I think you're an amazing human being. And I want to see you get to the place where you want to be in your mental health journey. Yeah. And I don't think, and I don't say this because I don't believe in you. I say this because I am dealing with my mental health largely on my own. I have all of you wonderful people, right? But I don't have a counselor. I don't have a therapist. And so a lot of my mental health and trauma work I'm doing on my own. And I just don't feel like you need to do that. Like
it's very scary and isolating to be.
It's not even just scary and isolating. When you have somebody who can walk you through the stages of grief, right? Because when we're going through trauma, really what we're doing is we're grieving. We're grieving for this person who was abused and taken advantage of and hurt and bullied and shamed into believing that they deserved it. And when you're going through those stages of grief, oftentimes we're told, get over it or deal with it on your own. Having somebody there to hold your hand and to hug you, metaphysically even, and to let you know that they're there to support you, it just makes it easier. And when I'm sitting at home alone on my couch, like there was a couple weeks ago, I picked up the phone and I called Wendy and I was like, I'm gonna fucking lose it. Like I was close. I was closer than I've been in a really long time to wanting to commit. And Wendy saved my life. And it didn't have to be like that, right? If I had had a counselor who understood, who gets it, who was able to take me through all the stages, then I wouldn't have gotten to that point. Thank God I have Wendy, because like she's in counseling. So I just figure she's basically training so she can counsel me, because the universe was just like, here, take her.
You know, like 2 years ago, I was ready to die. Literally,
Yeah.
I had a beautiful 17-year-old child. I have a lovely job, a wonderful house, but I was just hurting so badly. And so, I mean, I have moments of that still, right? And then that voice that I think it's the inner teenager that still says, just fucking die, will ya? But
Yeah.
I agree that having someone to help move you through the stages is really, really important. I mean, there's lots of stuff online. I'm working with a somatic experiencing practitioner. He does other work too, which is really great. But somatic experiencing was founded by Peter Levine, and he's got lots of really good videos online. He's very gentle. I love his voice. Also, Dr. Gabor Mate. He's
Dr. Gabor Mate is
oh my God.
amazing.
So I don't know if any of you watched the Wisdom of Trauma conference that was on 2 weeks ago.
I've got it ready to watch.
Oh my God. Like, I mean, I'd heard about this guy. And so the film, The Wisdom of Trauma, is actually kind of almost an homage to downtown Vancouver, East Side, because they film. And I'm like, oh my God, I know where that is. I work with patients exactly like his patients, you know, and so it's, and like, I spent the whole week crying because, and I'm sure you guys would all relate, like, and as you were saying, Karen, the accidental child abuse, I mean, I don't think my parents mean to do what they did. They brought their trauma and they brought their culture with them.
Yeah.
And it hurt. And so like literally cried the whole time because I was a drug user. Like,
you were what?
I was a drug user. I was addicted. I was numbing, you know. I mean, look at me now and I look like a square, right? I'm the epitome of domestic goddess. I bake, I quilt, I sew, I garden. But
I'm sorry, all those things are far more drug abuse as far as I'm concerned. Substance abuse.
Okay, so I do have an important question that I want to ask.
Devon.
Yeah.
Do you mind if I just ask Tia something?
Sure, go ahead.
Tia, is that how you say it?
It's TR.
TR. Sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
I wanted to ask you, can you pinpoint what it was about this second therapist that was totally not useful for you and has put you off therapy?
That's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have a really bad memory, so I don't know any specifics whatsoever. I just know he was just bad. I'm really sorry. I'm sorry.
No, that's
there's
fine.
no, don't apologize.
I was only asking that question so that perhaps it could clarify for you what you didn't want in a therapist. And
oh yeah, no, just I know I need therapy soon because my housekeeping job is super stressful. I had numerous autistic breakdowns at work. My boss is very understanding. She knows I have autism or that I'm autistic, and she wanted me to get into counseling because my autistic breakdowns scared the crap out of her.
Yeah.
And I was angry and I was crying and freaking out all my coworkers. And my last big one was on a day where it was just stressful, and I lost all my chargers and then wasted $35 trying to get new chargers that ended up not working. And I had a breakdown in one of the rooms I was trying to clean, scared the crap out of one of my coworkers. She went to go get my supervisor, who saw me just crying, and I just had water all over my face from my eyes, and my boss came in, she was like, TR, what's wrong? And I'm like, I don't know. This is completely spontaneous. It's never been this bad before. And sometimes that's just
the
what it
part,
is. It's
the
spontaneous.
anxiety
You know
and the
Excuse me,
the
Devon.
sudden overwhelmingness, right, of emotion and like and things that are little to other people are like really big deals to us. And I feel like we're upset about right, and it might be a charger that's not working, right, but it's indicative of deeper issues that we're not dealing with. And then it just kind of snowballs and becomes this big thing. And then people on the outside are like, oh my God, how do we deal? What do we do? How do we help? And when we're in the thick of the storm, like you're just describing, Char, we don't necessarily know how to convey, this is what I need. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am.
Tia,
Did you just call me
just-
ma'am?
Yes.
Oh my
I'm
God, you're the
sorry.
cutest thing. I love you.
He did that.
I love being called ma'am. I
Tia.
love it.
My mom told me to be respectful to women, and I try to be, even when they piss me
Oh,
off.
that's sweet.
Tia, can I just ask,
yes.
can I finish talking with Tia?
Yes, go ahead.
Sorry, thank you. Tia, what I would recommend is that you make sure, because you see, when we go and see a therapist, we tend to be kind of submissive and enthralled to what we see as their, magnificent education. But we should treat it as if we are auditioning them, interviewing them to see if they fit
That's
what
good.
we need. So Tia, what I would recommend is when you feel ready to look for another therapist, when you ring them up, have a conversation and say, are you autistic informed? Are you trauma informed? Are you informed about the trauma of males being sexually abused by females? Because all these things, you need to ensure that you are putting yourself in a space with a person who is informed. My grandson at 7 has now just been diagnosed with autism, and already he's having issues, with people not understanding. And the main thing is that, and you go to your first interview or your first session with a therapist like you would on a first date. We tend to go into a relationship with a therapist from nothing to marriage. I'm going to use you forever no matter how you treat me. And what we should be doing is going into a relationship with the therapist by saying, okay, this is the first date. You don't say it to them, but you say it to yourself. This is my first date.
You get like an interview process.
Yeah.
I'm going to see if we're compatible. I'm going to see.
Because you're hiring them to do a job, right?
Exactly.
You need to know that they can do the job that you need them to do.
Yes. I had a therapist he was my very first therapist, and he was trying to move me down an avenue of work that I wasn't ready for, and it was triggering me. And I was so afraid to tell him this that I actually wrote him a letter. And when he read the letter, he rang me up and screamed at me that I would never get well, that I was never going to recover if I didn't do things his way. And
Karen already knows what I think about that particular conversation.
Yeah, all I could do was say, I'm going to hang up now. And if it hadn't been for the fact that my mum lived a mile up the road, and that I was, even though I was a mess, I was still quite resilient, I probably would have taken my life, because here was a man who was supposed to know exactly, and he's telling me, you're not going to make it unless you do it my way. And from then on, it was a case of, right, I'm going to make sure that the person I am putting myself into this space with is safe for me.
Yeah.
So you are in charge, Tia, of making sure that whoever you start to see next has enough information about the issues that bother you that they are a safe space for you.
To that end, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to know, when you are thinking about your mental health, when you are thinking about your future, and I'm going to start with Karen Badia because she hasn't really spoken too much, and I'm going to put her on the spot. What are your mental health? What are your mental health goals?
My mental health goals. Well, right now I am going through a really tough time, to be honest. And Karen Unruh knows this all too well. She has been like my rock through all this. I've known her for over a year now, and I can tell you she is the shit.
I agree.
I love her dearly, and she has been like my full support. Like I just can't even tell you. Even though we're 5 hours apart, and I've never met her in real life, but we will one day after this COVID.
Oh yeah, we are all going to Jamaica.
Oh
man.
yes, we're gonna
yeah.
blow out.
I can't go to Jamaica. Do you know how anti-gay they are?
Oh,
Yeah, totally. I'm
We'll go to the Dominican Republic.
Right now, it's too
we'll go,
fucking
yeah,
far.
Dominican Republic. There you go. So what was the question? You got me off track.
What are your mental health goals?
Goals. Okay, so I've just had like a triggering event. So I don't know how brutally honest I can be. Karen Unruh, what do you think?
As much as you're comfortable with.
We'll let you know if you're going too far with information. So you just start speaking, saying your truth. And then if we feel you're going into too much detail that might be triggering, we'll let you know.
Okay.
How about that?
Like Wendy, I used to use drugs and alcohol a lot, starting in high school, then it like hit in college like a lot. Like I just blossomed in high school, in college. And then it was like I did certain drugs. I don't know if I'm allowed to name them or whatever. I don't know. But
That's
I did.
entirely up to you.
Okay, so like Coke was my drug of choice.
Yep.
Okay. And so I went to visit my sister and brother-in-law with my mom out of state. I'm not going to say where because, this is live streaming. So, and then my mom ended up staying there. And when I came home, I just flipped out because I thought, oh, this is going to be a great opportunity for me to get my shit together because I've been on disability. And for the past like year and a half, I had been working. I was doing like volunteering for a mental health radio show. Then I was working with a guy for a nonprofit, and then he ended up getting sick. So I lost all of that at once. The girl that was doing that, she was very.
She was a narcissist.
There you go. I didn't say it. So it was just a bunch of shit happened at once. But everything was fine, and then I went to I got past all that, and I was still working. And then I got another client for a couple months, freelancing. And so I've been working on myself, trying to get certifications like in marketing and stuff, digital marketing, blah, blah, blah. But when I came home, I just got lonely. And I'm in a really bad relationship right now for over 2.5 years. And I didn't realize for the longest time, I thought he maybe had narcissistic personality traits. But I never realized that I was in an emotionally and mentally abusive relationship. And it's long distance, but he's about an hour away. So we don't see each other that much. But we talk all the time. But it's gotten worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And it's destroyed my self-confidence. It's destroyed me. And until I figured out, oh my God, he is completely messing with, he's fucked me in the head. And so when I came home, I reached out to the wrong person that I used to know, and we did cope. And I didn't know, but she had been on it for like several days. And I had to fake that I had overdosed. I actually faked it and called my sister that night to get her out of the house because I was scared what she was going to do. And so then a couple weeks later, I did it again because I smoke weed from time to time because it calms me down. And I'll be honest about that. That's the only
Hey,
thing.
I am the loudmouth brown girl, baby. My logo is a soldier smoking weed. So there is
So
no
calms me
judgment when
down.
it comes
I
to
don't care.
cannabis. Smoke it, got him.
You're talking with the former chronic.
I will be
I
rolling
can't
the
smoke
biggest,
weed because I
fattest
work
joint
in.
when this is over. You don't even know.
Me too.
I
I'm
can't
not allowed to
can't-
smoke.
You can't smoke weed, Tia.
I can't smoke because even though it's legal in Washington State, it is illegal in Idaho.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And if I smoke weed in Idaho, I'll get fired from my job.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I can't
you get
smoke. I
tested
can't
then?
smoke anymore either. It messes me up. But anyways, Karen, go on, please.
So yeah, so then I did coke again that a couple of weeks later, and I did it by myself because the dealer was like pushing it on me,
Mm,
and I flipped out, and it obviously triggered something in my brain because it's not good with medications and all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then I was flipping out on my family and begging my mom to come home, and then they just completely I had no support system. My sisters basically told me no more, no more, no more. My mom said I have to take care of myself from now on. I understand that she's 80 years old, but I was begging her to come home. I couldn't handle it. I was suicidal. I didn't know what to do. I had no one. If I didn't have Karen, I wouldn't have had anybody. So I pulled my shit together, and that last Monday I started calling therapists, and it's really hard to find therapists in the United States that take Medicare. It's so hard.
Yeah.
And I've done this shit for over 20 years. I've had to advocate for myself. I was the sickest in my life. And so I finally found therapists at my psychiatrist's office. Like I already had an appointment that Wednesday.
Yeah.
And I got in with a psychologist at his office that Thursday. And she happens to be Romanian, just like my family.
Oh, okay. Nice.
So that's
Oh my
kind of
God, we're
crazy.
cousins.
What?
Yeah, my mom is part gypsy.
No.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
Roma
so
Roma is
cool.
different than
We're
Romanian, but
not
anyways.
gypsy, but we are Romanian. Oh my God, yeah.
Roma is different. Roma's different than
Yeah.
gypsy.
No, my mom's dad's mom, we believe, was Roma gypsy.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Yeah, and she is the like quintessential my mother moved around for like 20 years, so she is full blown. It's in the blood. But we're cousins. That's awesome. That makes me happy. Carry on.
What's your goal, Karen? What's your goal?
Okay, so my goal is to keep on going to therapy. I'm on a new medication right now for 5 to 10 days, just to even put me back on even keel. Try to get my head straight. I don't know. I have to talk to my therapist and see what to do about my family, either to not try to stop talking to them as much because they're triggering me every 5 seconds. Even when I tell them I don't want to talk about my stuff, I don't want to talk about my stuff. They're like, just like I told my sister the other day, I'm feeling manic. She went, well, just don't be manic. I went,
my God. Yeah. Oh, it's so
so I
easy.
said, click.
It's so
I said,
fucking
click.
easy.
Can you see me rolling my eyes? Like,
she said, oh my God, like you can.
if I could
How about
just
don't
be
be an
happy, I would
asshole,
be
please?
happy all the time. Like I would not
I was
choose
like,
For
to be
real.
miserable.
I was like,
My God.
That's what I get a lot of
they don't
people tell me
understand.
just
Go for a walk or just do this or just or exercise. When you're down that bad, when you're this sick, it doesn't work.
No.
You can't.
Yeah.
You can't get up. So I've joined like
I
NAMI
get told that a
group.
lot.
I've joined a NAMI group that I've been to. Tomorrow will be my third NAMI group that I've been
What's
to.
that? What's
The National Alliance on Mental Illness.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so I really like that group. I'm trying everything in my power just to
Yeah.
stay alive right now.
Yeah. And good on
You know what?
Good on you.
Do you know what, Karen? I have been so impressed by your refusal to go under.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is
Yeah.
to fall down the rabbit hole. And the strength that you have shown and the resilience that you have shown and the work that you have done to find support in your area, I'm really, really proud of you. That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you.
I am too, and I just met you tonight, and I will say that I'm proud of you because I know what it feels like. I know what it feels like to be in that place where you're like, I'm done. Just like, let me have death. Let me have peace. Let it be over.
Yeah.
I cannot take anymore. And for
But I've
those
been there
of us,
so many times and I don't want to do that. It's like I've fought so
you
hard to
know,
get this
you
far.
will though. You'll go through it 100,000 times before it stops. And if your goal is to get to the place where you're no longer thinking like that, I look at Karen Unruh, and I know you have bad days, Karen. I know that you have days where you're like, this fucking sucks and I hate it. Ah.
Yeah.
However, you still get up and you still go on Twitter and you still push people forward and you
Yeah.
still lift other people up. And I
Yep.
feel like if we can find little anchors like that to keep
Right.
us going, that is what makes us
Other-
survivors.
To help each other.
Yeah.
So, yep.
I think having
We
a
are-
sense of purpose, having a sense of purpose is grounding.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
I moved up from London 6 years ago to this little town where I live now, to nurse my father as he was dying of dementia. And then he died. And suddenly my daily purpose was gone.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a job. I didn't have colleagues. I didn't have, and my presence on Twitter gives me a daily purpose. There's something I have to do. And there is, and as you have said, Wendy, the feedback and the support that you get on this with this tribe is phenomenal. And there's a sense of, even though you don't see them, even though we're all dispersed around the world, there's a sense of being held in their thoughts and in their caring. And that has kept me going through some tough times, just being part of that, having a sense of belonging and purpose there. Yes.
Yeah.
I think part of it also, though, is we have in our collective mental health tribe, right? We've got Tiara in Seattle. We've got Karen in somewhere in the
North
South,
Carolina.
and I'm guessing because
North
you're
Carolina.
I'm Spokane.
okay. Spokane, South Carolina, Vancouver, Surrey, England.
Yeah.
We have people literally all over the world, right? And a lot of times we look at places like England and we go, oh, it's so beautiful and it's so wonderful and they have all this history and blah, 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 blah. Or we look at Paris and think it's the city of romance. We don't think there are people in Paris or Italy or Madrid who are suffering with mental health. But then they connect with us on Twitter and you're like, holy shit, there are people in Paris and Madrid and Italy, the most famous, beautiful cities in the world.
Australia.
Or
Yes.
Australia, who are suffering with the same freaking shit that we're going through.
Everywhere.
Yeah,
It's
they're everywhere. Yeah.
And it's
Well,
this
like
idea
finding
that we're
human beings.
alone. This idea that we're
Yeah.
alone in our trauma and our pain. That's something that our abusers want us to believe, right? And so, like, when I think of mental health goals, my mental health goal is to make loudmouthbrowngirl.com. Go check it out. Shameless plug, because I have no shame whatsoever. I want it to be the go-to mental health website. I want people to be like, oh, you know what? There's resources, there's other people, there's stories, there's conversations, because I want there to be somewhere for people to go, that they just know that there's somewhere where they can contact help, right? There's sex abuse chat on Tuesday nights. There's
the PTSD chat on Wednesday is really good too.
There's that one as well. And it's just I want to connect survivors. And I want us to get out of this crap idea that we are a victim forever. We are only a victim as long as we are in the space of our abusers. The moment that our abuser is gone, we have survived that experience.
Yeah.
True.
Going
like that.
back, going back to the being as this is going to be watched by trauma therapists and psychiatrists,
Hopefully.
etc. Going back to that issue, with my first therapist, I kept saying to him, am I feeling this way because I was abused by my husband? And he would never validate that. He would never authenticate that. So he perpetuated the feeling that I was the problem. And then I went to another therapist years later. And by this time, it had been 12 years since I was divorced. But I'd had 10 years of intense emotional, verbal, spiritual, and some physical abuse. And she said to me, oh my God, it says here, blah, blah, blah. 12 years and you're not over this yet?
Oh my God, what?
Jeez.
Yes. And so
I what now?
She said,
what? That?
She said, you've been out of this 12 years and you're not over it yet?
Okay,
That's
can I just say,
I
need to say this because I need to get it on the fucking record, okay? Dealing with mental health and trauma, and I'm looking directly at the camera when I say this because I want any psychologist or psychiatrist or mental health professional to hear me when I say this. Dealing with trauma and mental health due to trauma or addiction, which often encompasses trauma, is not like putting on a fucking Band-Aid. It's not the same thing as breaking a leg or falling down a ski hill. I was abused starting at my baptism, and it did not stop until I was 25. I am 38. It is going to take me until the day that I die to deal with the trauma that I have been through. And I am not the only one. There are people out there, if you can believe it, who have been through way worse things than I have ever than I could even comprehend going through.
Yeah.
There have been people who have been strung up and...
Sorry, you're going into a bit of detail here.
Well, I don't mean physically strung up, but strung up and turned into martyrs. Jesus comes to mind, like the most famous victim of them all. We know, for instance, that he was taken to a cave and that he was beaten overnight and then forced to carry a cross. Okay? That is the kind of crap that we're going through. Whether it's a physical cross or it's an emotional and spiritual and mental health one, we all have our crosses to bear. And so when you as a mental health professional say something as stupid as, you're not over it yet, I actually want to smack you and say, are you over it yet?
But
because no, I'm not. And I can't get over it on my own. That's why I need you.
But the trouble is, you see, when we take into a session with us all our baggage, all our guilt, all our shame, all our self-blame, and then if a therapist says something like that, even if it's an off the cuff and they think it's an innocuous thing to say, it is so hurtful because it seems to validate all of our sense of shame. Tia,
we're supposed to be graceful about it. We're supposed to be calm and quiet and well behaved, and all I want to do on your behalf, I want to go and just be like, really? Let's have a conversation about the kinds of trauma that a woman like Karen has gone through. How I'm just so angry right now in this moment, because when a therapist says something like that and then you get angry, right? Then you're the bad guy.
Yeah. But sadly, the thing is, we tend not to get angry. We tend to implode.
Yes.
And they then are carrying on working with us, but the trust has been broken.
Totally.
And once the trust is broken with the therapist, it's very difficult, like in any relationship, to rebuild it. But also the difficult thing is, what trauma therapists don't seem to get is that, or many of them, we are already codependent, okay?
Yep.
And so we take that codependence into our trauma sessions.
Yes, we do.
And we are longing for affirmation, validation, all those sorts of things. And even when the trust is broken, because they have not been kind or effective or healthy for us, we don't have the wherewithal to say, excuse me, but I mean, I do now, 30 years later, but at the time, we don't have the wherewithal to say, excuse me, but you're being triggering and this isn't right. You know, we implode. But our codependency keeps us going back because we've got used to being abused. We've got used to being unhealthily treated. And we're longing for them to actually say something kind, say something validating. And it's very easy to be in a codependent relationship with the therapist that actually isn't right for you. And it's important for us to be aware that what we take into that room, we have the right, as you say, to be angry, but a therapist must be so much more aware that we're taking codependency into that room.
Yeah. Can I?
Sorry, Tia,
that?
you were going to say something. Tia, you've been trying for a long time to say something. What was it you wanted to say?
This goes back to the conversation you guys were having about taking your own life. I haven't actively tried to, but the closest I've ever come to was in December of 2014. I had just gotten on Facebook, and then there was a girl on Facebook who I had a crush on in high school, and I went to juvie for unrelated things. Found her on Facebook when I got out, and then this was back when I had no understanding of social cues at all and how Facebook works. She was busy with college and I was just in high school, and I thought she was ignoring me. So I asked her, well, if you're just going to ignore me, I don't need to be your friend anymore. But her family took that as a threat to her safety and attacked me on Facebook to the point where I almost took my own life.
Wow. Oh God. That's
horrific.
I understand where I went.
I'm so sorry, TR.
I understand where I went wrong. I know not to do something like that again, but that was one of the worst moments of my life. And I was just sitting there.
Can I just stop you right there? Because I don't really feel like telling somebody that you no longer wish to be friends with them. I don't think that deserves emotional, social media based abuse.
It's a simple statement. I don't want to be your friend, and they totally blew it out of proportion. And that is so not.
That was.
I don't think that you're in the wrong there, my love.
No, you did nothing wrong.
Apparently, they thought I was sending her too many messages, and they started calling me obsessive and stalker. And I get actually triggered when people call me a stalker. I can't handle it, and I go into an anxiety attack, and that's.
I think that goes back.
So I actually have to just go ahead.
Go ahead. No. Okay, first of all, sweetie, you guys start calling me Devon.
I can't help it.
I give you
I'm
my
sorry.
permission. We're friends.
You must call me sir.
I think that goes back to what Karen was saying though about codependency. Like when we're living with trauma, we do get a little bit codependent, and we do kind of like, I worry sometimes if I call Wendy that it's too late, or that I'm calling her too often, or that I'm texting her too often. But then she'll turn around. She's so funny. She'll turn around and she'll text me like 15 times in a row when I'm writing, and I'm like, oh my God. And I look at my phone and it's her, and she sent me this like huge thing, and I'll send her back like one text, and I'm like, was that too much? Right? So sometimes we don't always know what's too much and what's too little, but I think that the response that we get in terms of how much we're sending out it's not necessarily balanced, right? Like you could send somebody 100 messages, unless they've actively said, yo, please stop sending me messages, there's no real signal that like you've crossed a line.
That's what it was too. They wanted me to quit sending her messages, but nobody ever told me explicitly to stop. They just kept calling me a stalker, and they had one of their family friends is some Vietnam veteran who lives in Las Vegas. He threatened to actually come up to Spokane just so he could kill me for harassing this girl. And I was like, bro, I don't even know you. I'm not even talking to you. And her dad was like, I know 1 million ways to kill somebody, so you should just fuck off. And her boyfriend was like, you need to stop being so obsessively stalking. And I'm like, I don't even know you guys. I just want her to. After I figured out that she wanted me to quit, I just I was like, okay, just I need to ask her if she wants me to, because you guys speaking up for me is sending mixed signals, or speaking up for her is sending me mixed signals. And this conversation happened on a tablet at Target, and I rode my bike home from that Target after this internet battle and cried for 3 hours straight.
Wow.
And then
You know
skipped
what,
school the
Tia?
next morning to, yes?
You, when somebody is on the autism spectrum, it makes life a lot harder to navigate. My 7-year-old grandson said to his dad, he's only just been diagnosed with autism, but he's high functioning, but, you know, and he's a great kid, but he's becoming aware that he's different. And he was, my son caught him crying the other day saying, Dad, my thoughts keep telling me I'm a bad person, you know.
Wow.
And my son said, you know, look, it's going to get a lot easier as you get older. And Samuel said, but it's going to take so long to be older, Daddy, you know. So
I feel that in my heart.
yeah, I know. Just the very fact, Tia, that, I mean, I sobbed when he told me, but just the very fact that you were born with autism makes life far harder to navigate in a world that is hard to navigate anyway. And the fact that you made a mistake with the social cues that you've learned from, you need to pat yourself on the back. These people, they must have been rednecks.
No,
I was married
lot
to
of them
guy
actually
from West
lived in-
Virginia, so I know. They went from 0 to 200 in 3 seconds, didn't they? I mean, they went ballistic, you know. They're the ones with the issue problem. But you need to forgive yourself for finding it challenging to navigate a world when you have autism.
Yeah.
You know,
I don't have autism, but I do find it difficult to navigate the world. I don't always recognize social cues, and I don't always, like, my brain and my mouth don't necessarily know how to work together all the time, especially if I'm anxious, especially if I'm overwhelmed, if I'm scared, if my big girl emotions are coming out, but my little girl person is in charge, then I legit don't know how to function, and it sends me into a tailspin, and I cry and I scream. When I published my book, it should have been the most exciting experience of my life. I went in my room and I cried for 3 hours, and I was like, I'm a loser and I'm horrible and no one's gonna buy it.
Oh, no.
And then, like, 18 people went and bought my book like 10 seconds after I published it. Right. So it is definitely difficult to navigate when you have autism, TR. But, like, I just want you to know you're not alone. I struggle really, really deeply with setting mental health goals, with following through on my mental health goals, with connecting with other human beings is very difficult for me. And I mean, I'm the loudmouth brown girl, right? So I have it all together. I've got this great website. I've got a clothing line. I've got a published book. I look like my shit's together. If you all could see my house right now, you'd walk in and be like, who the fuck are you? Who do you think you are to be giving us advice on mental health?
Well, you're not giving advice on housekeeping.
Yeah, don't come to my house either.
Your house looks great.
My bathroom
is really organized.
My laundry is
That's
kind
why
of
I'm in my
done.
living room.
So,
But I have OCD, Devon, and your picture is crooked.
Oh,
okay,
yeah,
look,
it is.
I
know.
tried.
I was
She
looking
doesn't
at
want
that
to be
going,
straight.
okay, mine
She's
is
gay.
okay, right?
She's gay.
Well, that's
She
a
does
whole
not
nother
want to be
topic.
straight. I have tried. It ain't happening.
So Tia,
Yes.
Tia, to go back to Devon's original question, what are your mental health goals?
I don't know what they are.
What would you
That's okay.
really love if you were to meet a therapist who was effective and you trusted and felt safe with? What would you like to be working towards, say, in 5 years' time? How would you like to see yourself coping?
5 years. I want to get better at my social cues, and I just want to be able to talk in a way that people can understand without me stuttering or saying something wrong and them getting upset and me having to defend myself and then being the bad guy. And that's happened a lot.
Do you
Yeah.
not have in
I agree with that.
Washington? In Washington,
Yes.
do you not have access to autism support, as in training in social cues, training in this sort of thing? I know in England there's Autistic Society that, you know, you can, a charity that you can be in touch with, and they can find you someone in your local area who actually will support you with your autistic journey.
I get all that from. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, sorry. Go on.
Oh, I was gonna say, I get all of my autism support from my sister, who is also autistic. She's my best friend, but we know each other like brother and sister. She's also she's non-binary.
Okay.
So just because Karen asked, and because TR is one of my favorite people in the world, and you happen to be in Spokane, there is for those of you that are watching, there is the UW Medicine Adult Autism Clinic in Seattle. Now, that being said, I do not recommend them. I'm just pointing out that it is there. There is support there. And so TR, if you're interested, I will help you find something after this is over that might work for you.
Yeah, that'd be a great idea, because that, you know, that'll help with your mental health as well. If you are finding it easier to function just on a social level.
For those of you that are watching, there is the UW Medicine Adult Autism Clinic in Seattle. Now,
What's happening?
What was that?
that was the live stream overlapping with us,
Yeah.
which is, I guess they wanted a little more attention. Karen,
That's
what
how
are
I
your
spend
mental
the
health
first 20
goals?
minutes.
Yeah.
Sorry, what?
What are your mental health goals?
Me?
Yes.
This Karen.
Yes, the one.
I tell you what, I have one specific mental health goal. I have learned over the 10 years I've been working with my therapist to better manage triggers. But when I had a breakdown in our first lockdown, and again, an innocuous trigger, but something that blew me out of the water. And I know when I get a trigger, a huge trigger, because I'm very happy with the fact that most of the time I'm managing little triggers and they don't bother me, and it's fine. But I've come a long way. But just occasionally I'll get a trigger that will just be like, oh, someone just shot me in the heart. And I know I have a 2-day window that if my coping mechanisms don't work, I need to go see my doctor and get put onto a benzodiazepine, because I become suicidal, because my thoughts spiral into the most awful rabbit hole. God almighty, or wish it on Hitler. And what my goal is, because I know recovery takes a lifetime, and I know that trauma is like having a bomb inside you. We can never remove it because it actually happened. All we can do is gradually remove the amount of gunpowder in there so that it stops exploding like a bomb. And when we are triggered, it just goes poof. And that's happened with most things. But when my big triggers hit, and I never expect them and I don't see them coming and whatever, I don't cope without a tranquilizer. And then I've just spent a year coming off benzodiazepine, and a year before, 3 years before that, I spent another year coming off. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's hectic for your system. I would like to get to the place where no matter what the trigger, I don't need a tranquilizer. Now, on the other hand, I've learned to navigate that. And So if that's the only issue I have for the rest of my life, that there will occasionally be a major trigger every 5 years or so, and I end up being on benzodiazepine, okay, because my life is joyful and I'm at peace most of the time. But that is the ghost in the machine. You know, I'd like to see that die.
Yeah. Wendy, what are your mental health goals, my love? If you feel comfortable sharing, you don't have to.
Yeah, totally. I think the main one is to learn how to feel joy again.
Oh, darling.
I'm doing really good at going through the motions of, you know, practicing things that do bring me joy. So the pandemic hit a lot of people hard. I work in healthcare. It was brutal because when everyone was staying home during lockdown, I was at work on the front line.
Yeah. Thank you, by the way. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, my mom too.
My son, he happened to be on school break. So when he came home, I asked him to live with my dad because I was worried about bringing the virus home. So, and he lived with him for 3 months, and then he graduated high school last year and moved in with his own father, who is a narcissist and who abused us. He didn't come home. I was hoping that he'd come home. So I'm sort of going through the process of grieving, of wondering why he's moved in with his father. I know why. I know logically why, but it has really hit me really hard. All of the things I did wrong as a parent, all of the trauma I let filter through my sieve into my parenting style, has really put me into a deep depression that I started in about 2 years ago. And so it's almost like, and like, don't get me wrong, for the longest time I had so much joy. I was functioning, but maybe I was numb and dissociated from the trauma that's now I'm working on. And Karen, as you were saying about looking after your father, and then when he passed, you didn't know your purpose. I was a single mother for 17 years.
Me too.
I don't know what to do with myself. I love my freedom. I love that he's not here, because I can actively heal and work on myself without having to worry about feeding him or whatever. But I'm also so lost, you know, and all of my friends have kids now. I had him when I was 24, when they were all building their careers. I felt so less than. Not only was, you know, my ex making me feel less than as a woman, but just seeing everyone around me. So I'm in the process of discovering that, hell yeah, I'm worthy.
Yeah.
I am fucking awesome. I've accomplished a whole bunch of stuff.
Oh my God, you are literally one of the coolest people I have ever known. And I can say that because we have had some of the deepest conversations I've ever had in my life. Like, we have talked about things that I have not talked about with people I have known for 20 years. And you are legit one of, like, I can tell you anything. I can talk about how I masturbate with you, for crying out loud. Like, I can't do that with anybody else in my entire life. Right. And like, you are this light and this joy to be around and to talk to. Aww. And I mean, we spent 2 hours talking about Robert Downey Jr.'s butt the other night, and to the point that I'm actually in the middle of watching Iron Man 3 right now because you told me that I had to. So like, yeah, I want you to believe that, and I want you to find that place within yourself where that's not something you have to remind yourself of, because you just know it.
But I have to, and so like a little bit of backstory for me, for you all. I literally, when I was born, I had 10% chance to live.
Wow.
Jeez.
So in moments when I feel like dying, once I come out of it, I look at myself and I go, you were smaller than a block of butter, okay? you were tiny. You were dying. Your mom was dying. And you fought to live. Yeah, it was invasive, whatever they did. But I'm like, why would I give up on that?
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, all of the trauma that I went through has always been there to make me feel less than, dirty, tainted, blah, blah, blah. So my goal is to finally get to a place where, I'm no longer, and I'm almost there, like, and I'm getting there. And like you said, it's a lifelong process, but I'm no longer impulsive. I don't react as badly to things that used to just totally send me off into the deep end, because yeah, I was an angry kid, and then the anger was turned inside. I became suicidal. I did drugs. So I can see now that I can step back and not react to a situation, or react calmly to it. Like my neighbor totally fucking dragged me through the mud in front of everyone on our Facebook group the other day, and brought, shit into it, swastika, whatever. And I'm like, don't you fucking say that without knowing what my family went through at the hands of Nazis. Don't you fucking say that to me. So, but
it's that part, isn't it? That part where we're finally able to stand up for ourselves and go, oh, wait a minute, we don't have to take this anymore.
Yeah. And people get, like, she's been bullying me for the last 10 years. And as we heal, and I see it with my parents too, when we start saying, no, I won't tolerate this anymore, their idea of us gets shattered and they get angry. So I'm learning how to be comfortable with that. I'm learning to actually allow myself the joy. A big problem for me is, as much as I want to be seen and heard, I want to hide. And this is from childhood. This is from the abuse and being in an incubator. I literally grew up thinking there was a video camera watching me in my room as I grew up. I felt exposed. And so feeling the joy and other people praising me for the things I do, like I started watercolor painting because I needed some color in my life last year. And so everyone's giving me all this praise, and I'm just like, shut up. They don't.
Yeah, I do that too.
How to say it's okay. People are noticing me. No one's going to attack me for me being me. The people who want to attack me, like my jerk of a neighbor, I don't care anymore. I don't care that she's turned people against me. They clearly aren't my friends if they don't want to see things from an outsider perspective, because they want to be in her tent pissing out. They don't want to be at the brunt of her abuse, so they abuse me instead or whatever. But it's finding joy, being comfortable in myself, challenging societal constructs. Like my mom body shamed me for years. Like, by all means, I was never big, but she lived in Europe where everyone's very conscious about how you look, how you dress. And so now she got fat shamed a couple years ago, and she's tiny. She got a bit of a COVID belly. And so I try not to be rude, but I'm like, Mom, now you know what it feels like. So bless you.
Thank you.
It's embracing that we are allowed to take up space. We're allowed to be here. Even if our trauma, our abusers, and everything told us we are less than, we shouldn't be here. It's like, no, I am allowed a place here. I'm worthy. I have a light. I bring something to the table. Right?
Yeah.
We have 15 minutes left, or just a little bit under. And I just have one more question, and it's probably the most important. And I think it's the most important because there are billions of us around the world who have been through a variety of traumas and a variety of abuses. And our traumas might be war-based, like we might have soldiers who have been abused by their commanding officers, or who are traumatized by the things that they have seen on the battlefield. It might be a person coming out of parental abuse or spousal abuse. Really quickly, what advice would you give to somebody who is just starting to acknowledge their own trauma and who is just starting to realize, okay, this is what I have to deal with. and this is what I need to do about it.
I watched a terrific video film the other day about a guy dealing with his traumas. Very famous guy. He was on Saturday Night Live. He used to play President Clinton. I can't think of his name now. Darren somebody. Anyway, well-known comic. And he only became aware of his trauma in his late 40s, 50s. But he knew, because his mind had chosen to forget it, to block it out.
Yeah.
And so he did a lot of drugs. He did a lot of stuff he was ashamed of. You know, he did all this stuff. And when he finally met the therapist that helped him unlock his memories and find healing, this therapist said something to him that really, really hit me hard. And I think it's so important to know and to do. And that is to forgive yourself for whatever you have done in your life in order to survive, whether that's drugs, whether that's theft, whether that's, you know, whatever it is. Yes, make amends if you can, but forgive yourself.
Yeah.
I was addicted, I mean, on a much smaller note, I was addicted to over-the-counter painkillers. I had a list of, I had 6 different drugstores I was going to so that nobody would say, "Hi, you were in here 3 days ago."
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's petty, that's nothing. But I've forgiven myself since hearing this, because I did that in order to survive.
Yeah.
One hurdle I could never get over, I couldn't forgive myself, was when toward the end of my 10-year marriage and the abuse was getting worse, I realized that I was sliding downhill into an abyss, and that his family were probably going to lock me up and throw away the key, because they were so unhappy he'd married a foreigner anyway. They were West Virginians, good old clan. And so worried was I, and so desperate and so lost and so fearful, that when my mum said to me, "Look, Karen, come home," and I left my son, my just under 2 years old, and eventually, of course, we went back and got him. I mean, there's a book there, but it was only a month later we went back and got him. But I could not forgive myself as a mother for having left my son behind. And it's taken me 25 years to get to the place where I could say, you know what, I did what I had to do to survive. I choose to forgive myself and to be kind to myself. And I think any new person coming into the realization that their pain is trauma-based needs to be able to leave behind any shame about how they've lived in order to survive.
I think that's really important, because I remember the night that I was last gang raped. I told every lie. I used reverse psychology. I said that angels and demons were coming to get my rapists. I used religious theology crap to get myself out of that situation. I did whatever I could to make sure that I got out of that black room alive. And when it was over, people were like, "Well, why did you tell this lie? And why did you tell that lie?" And I said, because I thought I was going to die.
Yeah.
And if I was going to die, I was going out with whatever I could to make sure that they didn't want to kill me, or that they would regret killing me, or that they would be afraid of what might happen after. And you know what? It worked. Yes. So I regret nothing. Yes. I have no shame. I don't care how I behaved. I don't care what they did to me. I don't care what they put me through, because I survived. Their intent was to make me feel humiliated and ashamed and desperate and afraid. And they did all of those things, and I still survived. So I I don't
And-
care what you think of how I behaved that night.
No. And it's like with Karen, you know, we've talked recently, you know, about how her family have shamed her terribly for taking coke recently.
Yeah.
But you know what? We do what we need to at the time to survive.
Yeah.
And we need to forgive ourselves for that. You know, it's okay.
TR, my darling, my love, what advice would you give to somebody who wants to start talking about their mental health?
Oh, geez. I had something to say, but don't be afraid to stand up to your abusers.
I
Yeah.
love that.
I have a little story about these people who were bullying me on Facebook. Somehow, like, no, not somehow. Before I say that, but about a year after that incident, they reappeared in my feed, and I was like, "What the hell are y'all doing in my feed? Get out!" And they were just, they were completely oblivious to what they had done, and
Wow.
the lady, she was like, "Well, what are you even talking about?" And I was like, "You guys put me through hell. I want you out of my feed." And this was back when I still didn't know what how Facebook worked. And she was like, "TR, what are you talking about?" And I said, "You know exactly what you all did to me. I don't want to talk to y'all anymore." And
You've set a boundary.
yeah. And she was just like, "We had no idea what was going on. We didn't know you had autism." And I was like, "I sat up there and told y'all I had autism like 3 times. What the hell do you mean you didn't know?" And
Good
that
for
was the
you.
last thing I said to her. I blocked her on social media. I blocked him on social media, and I haven't spoken to them since. I want nothing to do with them.
I think for me, the advice that I would give, first and foremost, is to write it all down. Write down what you're capable of writing down, right? Look at it, burn it, bury it, whatever. But write it down so you can get it out of your head. I decided to put it on a blog and decided to name all my abusers because I was legitimately crazy and thought this will be a good idea. It'll go over well. It did not go over well. I don't recommend it. But it's what I needed to do at the time, and it helped me start loudmouthbrowngirl.com. But write it down so that it's not stuck in your brain anymore, right? Or paint it, draw it. I spent a weird amount of time dancing around my living room while my mom was at work, sometimes naked, just because I needed to dance naked and I needed to feel the music and raise the positive energy.
Did you shut the blinds?
No, no, I don't care. I will say that I smoke cannabis. The whole brand of Loudmouth Brown Girl is built on the idea that cannabis helped me start the blog, and that's true. But that being said, it's not for everybody. Some people, for psychiatric reasons, for spiritual reasons, for medical reasons, cannot use cannabis. I absolutely recommend that you meet with a cannabis instructor or an educator or your doctor beforehand, before even starting any kind of cannabis treatment.
Are
That
you
being
still
said,
talking to me?
Pardon?
Are you still talking to me?
No, in general.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
For me, cannabis helped me start Loudmouth Brown Girl, and it saved my life. But again, it's Wendy can't use cannabis for a variety of reasons. There are other people in the world that can't use them for a variety of reasons. I have to say that so you all can't sue me if you smoke a joint and something bad happens. I want to thank Karen Unruh for joining us tonight, because you have a way of speaking about mental health that is so eloquent. And it's because you have more experience. It's because you're English. It's because you're amazing. It's because of 1,000 other things that I can't think of to mention right now.
She's badass.
Thank you so much.
She's
You
badass.
are so cool. Wendy, you're literally my best friend right now. Like, you just are. And I love that we met on Twitter. And I can't wait till we can go to the break room and break stuff and smash things up, because that's coming. If you would like to support loudmouthbrowngirl.com and have more conversations like this, on my website, there is a brand new Survivors collection, or Survivors Connection collection 2021. So all 4 of you should go buy a t-shirt and a mug and a cup and a water bottle and all of the things. I wish I could give them to you because you earned them. Like you guys shared some seriously deep shit tonight, and I really appreciate that. Do you want to do it again maybe sometime in the future?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Can I share, do I have time to briefly share what I would tell people starting on this?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, and Devon, you've taught me a lot. On my worst
Oh
day,
shit. Everything
on
I know
my
I learned from
worst
you and
day,
Karen, so that's crap.
told me to write post-it notes of loving messages to
I said that?
myself and stick them on my mirror. You told me that.
I must have been high.
Doesn't matter if you were high, my dear. So like healing and getting better hurts a lot.
Oh, it's
It
hard.
gets worse before it gets better. I
Yeah.
didn't even dream how bad it was going to get. It's important to be gentle on yourself
Yeah.
on the bad days. I've had setbacks. I've had self-harm setbacks. I've just had mental health setbacks, depression. I beat myself up for it, and learning to just ride the wave of darkness until the light comes back.
Yeah.
And first and lastly, as you said, Devon, even though you don't remember it, remind yourself, and this is what I tell a lot of people on their bad days, remind yourself of your accomplishments and the things about yourself that are amazing, no matter how small. Nothing is insignificant. Everything is important. Just celebrate, the little dimple you get when you smile, or how you made so and so feel so good because you complimented their shirt or something.
Slap your ass.
Right? So
You cannot be upset and miserable and sad when you are slapping your own ass. It's impossible. I know this. I have tried it. If you are in the mood where you're slap your own ass because it feels weird, it feels uncomfortable, it is a weird action because who slaps their own ass? Trust me, it works.
Yeah.
Wendy, I just want to briefly say something to you about something you said earlier.
Mhm.
I was a single parent. Well, I suppose I still am. He's not dead.
Yeah, I still am.
And I was emotional scrambled eggs, when I returned from leaving my marriage, and also from returning from getting my son without them knowing that I was going. But I was so damaged that I had to work so damn hard to raise my boy, as you said, trying that nothing would escape through the sieve.
Yeah.
Because my main thing was, I don't want him affected by what I've been through.
Yeah. Totally.
Totally.
I'm getting goosebumps.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. All I ever wanted for him was that he grow up to be a secure, stable young man,
Loved, to know he was loved and wanted.
Yes. And to be able to make and maintain relationships and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Now, I made some terrible mistakes along the way, made some bad decisions that got me into some difficult scenarios that then affected him.
Yeah.
At 14, we had to move. When he was 14, we had to move suddenly because the rescuer in me had got me into a scenario that became life-threatening. I won't bother going there.
Yeah.
There were gypsies involved. But
not the dreaded gypsies.
Yes, the pikeys. The pikeys. So I felt so much shame. I felt hellish because my mistakes, my damage had leaked out onto Evan, because he then became suicidal at one point and had to be homeschooled and all of sorts. And oh my God, I hated myself. Yeah. I hated myself.
Yeah.
Now, he's 37 now.
Okay.
And very successful businessman, and a wonderful father. I said to him when he was in his mid to late 20s, I want to apologize. And I had to leave him when he was 17 and go live with my parents for 3 months because I'd had a breakdown. And we'd go back and fill the fridge every weekend and clean the house. That was a while, do the laundry.
Yeah.
But what I did, and what I always did, was explain to him, this has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
I am damaged by the abuse I went through.
Yeah.
And this happens to me. And anyway, in his 20s, when we were having a discussion and I was saying, I'm so sorry for what I put you through. I'm so sorry for the mistakes I made. He said, Mom, don't be sorry. It has stood me in good stead. I learned early that life isn't a fairy tale.
Yeah.
I learned early that you need to be resilient in life, and it has served me well. And the last time I had a breakdown, which was, like I said, a year ago, I was staying with my sister in order to recover.
Yeah.
And I couldn't speak to him. I couldn't speak to anybody. But my sister rang him to say what had happened. And he said, tell my mom that she is my inspiration. She's the strongest person I know. She is the one that's taught me resilience because I followed her example.
Yeah.
And you're going to come through this, Mom, and you're going to be fine. And I love you with all of my heart. Well, I still have that note. I just broke my heart.
Yeah.
So what I want to encourage you with is, don't allow yourself to be taken down the rabbit hole of my shit has shit on my son.
Yeah. Toxic guilt. Yeah.
Toxic guilt. It's not worth it.
I'd also like to say,
can I just finish? Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
And he had no contact with his father because his father chose no contact.
Okay.
But when he was 17, he began trying to find his father.
Okay.
And his father got in touch 7 years later.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And my son wanted a relationship with his father. But my ex-husband basically shat all over him, which was very validating for me because I felt guilty that he didn't have a father. And your son will eventually realize what your ex-husband is like. But at the moment, he probably hungers for that relationship, son and father.
Yeah, he says, so I have, and from the get-go, I've always apologized for my shortcomings, snapping at him when I'm stressed. And that's what I never had. And you probably, and most of us never had.
No.
And in October, I said, I am so sorry for all the times I yelled at you. So we've had this conversation. He's deflected it by saying, I understand, Mom, I was a difficult kid. And I'm like, it had nothing to do with you. I'm still dealing with that toxic guilt. As Dr. Gabor Mate says, there's parental remorse, which is normal. When it gets into guilt, that's when it is damaging. I'm watching him being financially abused by his father. He's literally paying his dad's mortgage and cooking and cleaning for him while holding down a full-time job and going to school. And accidentally, he found out the other day through one of his friends I was talking to about the sexual abuse his dad put me through. So I feel like I may have pushed him a little further away. He believes me. He wanted to confront his dad. But as you were saying, as everyone has assured me, they need to go out and find themselves with that other parent.
Yeah.
And come to their own conclusion. He will come back. I came back to my parents. I have forgiven them, even though, I'm still resentful. I came back.
Yeah.
But it is hard, right? Especially as a single mother. I'm sure you got ostracized left, right, and center, just like I did. I
Yes,
had a kid with
yes.
ADHD. I got shamed for the treatment I was putting him on. I was told it was because I was a bad mother.
Yep.
I
Yep.
think that in this category and in any category, we need to love ourselves for doing the best we could.
Exactly.
For, you know, I'm not a cycle breaker as much as I wanted to be. I didn't break all.
Okay, I'm gonna stop you right there because I love you, but you're
We
heading
gotta
into
go.
that territory. No, it's not even that.
Yeah.
You're heading into that territory where you are a fucking cycle breaker. Okay?
I'm a cycle softener.
No,
someone put
stop,
that out and I'm like,
stop.
yes.
No. I'm
Okay.
putting my hands up and I'm demanding that you stop, and I'm telling you why. When we are going through trauma, right? The fact that you, Karen, took time and said, yo, kid, I love you, but I gotta go. That is massive.
Yeah.
That is fucking huge. First of all, you had the ability to do that. Whereas 99% of parents who are parents are going to go, nah, I can't do that. I got kids. Why?
Yeah.
Why can you not go and take a vacation? Because you have their shit that you're dealing with and trying to make sure that they don't become homicidal, abusing killers themselves. But you also have your own shit, right? And that's a big pile of shit. And I'm using the word shit on purpose here. That is a big pile of crap for you to deal with as one person, as a single mom.
Yeah.
Right? Not only your own stuff, but then your kids' stuff. Then you throw in your ex's stuff. Then you throw in your partner, your friends, your work people, your everybody else pulling from you. And I feel like taking 3 months away, I wish my mom had done that. Her sending us to camp was genius.
Yeah.
Genius. Because I look back at that now and I'm like, oh, she really needed that time. Given who I was, who my brother was, what we were going through, the fact that she took that time to just be her, right? I'm really glad she did.
Yeah.
Now, Wendy, you say you're not a cycle breaker. And we've had conversations about this where you don't want to go into detail about what happened with you and your ex to your son, right? So the solution to, I don't want to talk about it with you, is why don't you go live with him for a while and see for yourself?
Well, he
That
knows
is breaking
now.
the cycle right there. Okay. Yeah. You have broken the cycle because now he is seeing through his own eyes. And yes, he will come back. There have been 100 times where I've gone back to my mom and been like, I love you and I'm sorry and I'm a horrible daughter and I will do better. And it's because, honest to God, my mother is a fucking superhero. The crap that I've put that woman through, she should have killed me years ago. If she had killed me when I was in utero, I would have understood, basically. Like, I put her through some shit.
Yeah.
And it was not a fun time raising Devon J Hall, let me just say. But she did it, and she did it well, and she did it eloquently. And now here I am helping other people and learning from other people. So when you say things like, I'm not a cycle breaker, that's not true. You are breaking the cycle because you're taking the time to take care of you.
Yeah.
Right? And when he has his own kids one day, and he comes to you and goes, Mom, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I promise you that door is going to open and the tears are going to come, and you might not show him and you might not let the world see it, because I've watched my mom do it. Like, I've gone up to her and been like, I'm sorry, I was a crap daughter and I love you and blah, 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 blah. And I've walked away and I've heard the sniffles.
Yeah.
Okay. So it'll happen. We break cycles in different ways.
Yeah. And as my therapist says, you know, each generation, he said, it's not going to happen in the first generation who tries it. It's gonna go on down the line. Like, my dad was physically beaten. He didn't give that to us, thank God, right? So I do see that the validity. I look at my kid and I'm so fucking proud of him. Like, he's just the most compassionate, amazing, gentleman.
Oh, my son is much nicer than me.
Oh yeah, I was an asshole
my
at
mom's
19.
way nicer than
I was
I am.
an asshole at 19, wearing.
I need devil horns and a tail. She is way cooler than I am when it comes to
I
dealing
had
with
those. anyway,
Tiara, go ahead.
I didn't tell anybody this before, but my mother, my adoptive mother and my adoptive sister were both severely physically abusive to me and my younger brother.
I'm so sorry.
And I'm just, that was actually why I wanted to come to this, but I just didn't, at the last minute, I didn't feel like telling you guys about it, but it was horrible. And I've forgiven my mom for it, but not really my sister so much. My sister was worse and less forgiving. And I don't think I can ever forgive her fully. And I keep playing this conversation in my head, like if I ever see her again long enough for me to tell her this, I'd say, all you did back then was hurt me, but you can't hurt me anymore. I'm an adult now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Tiara,
I
I'm
feel
so
kind
proud
of-
of you
So
as a
good.
man, as a Black man specifically, coming out and talking about abuse, because you and I know firsthand Black people don't talk about our shit ever. Like it is generational. We keep it to ourselves. We are taught to keep it to ourselves. You coming out and sharing parts of your story with me on Twitter and here tonight, that's huge, dude. I'm really proud of you.
I really
The
appreciate
other thing I wanted
sharing
to,
that. That was really brave.
Very
Yes.
brave.
And I just like, I can't say how much I appreciate that. It was
Thank you for
And
sharing.
you're the only dude in a room full of women right now. Like, that's
yeah.
pretty badass, man.
And also, Tia,
I want to see this.
one thing
ahead.
that I've learned, it is not required for you to forgive in order for you to
Amen,
heal.
mama.
Yes.
You know, you
Yeah.
can as long as you're not full of hate that's eating you up, you don't have to forgive in order to heal, because some
I
people
was
do
gonna
not
say that.
deserve forgiveness.
Yeah.
You know,
Forgiveness, like loyalty, is earned. And if our abusers are not actively making changes, like when my story came out, right, I kind of hoped that my abusers would make different choices. And I thought maybe they will change their trajectory. Well, they're in the same place now that they were in when they abused me. Nothing has changed in the last 8 years. So it's not like I'm withholding my forgiveness as a weapon, but like if you're not making an active effort to change your behavior and to change
your life.
your life and to
Yeah.
change the things that make you become people who are abusers, well, then why am I going to do the things that I need to do to forgive you?
Can I add something else?
Yeah, honey, go ahead.
I'm sorry, I just didn't want to interrupt. Due
sometimes
to
you need to interrupt
this-
her.
I just feel really bad if I just.
Sorry, Devon, I love
you.
Sorry, start again, Tia. I'm sorry.
Due to all the trauma I experienced from my mom, and all the issues I had with me trying to date, and I'm a straight man, and I have no problem with the LGBT movement, but that actually isn't the point. I don't know if I want to have kids or if I want to get married, and that's fine, I guess, but it's also because I have such bad social anxiety. I don't want to say the wrong thing, and if I have kids, that's cool, but I also don't want to become the person my mom was.
Yep.
And
I was
my
afraid of
sister
that too.
definitely won't be allowed to touch my kids.
Yeah, that's good.
And I feel kind of bad about that, but that's
You
how it
shouldn't
has to be.
No, I don't think you should though, because I feel like if you abused me, I ain't letting you near my kids.
Right.
I'm gonna come at
That's
you with,
true too.
like, knowing what I know about abuse and trauma, you come after my kid, you better run. Like, you better leave the planet, because I will make you leave. There will
Yeah.
be no abusing my children, because if you are around my children, you better know, like, I am Mama Bear. I will destroy you,
Mhm.
right? Because I know what the effect of abuse is,
Yep.
and I don't want my kids to go through that. So if you're saying you're not sure if you're ready to have kids, you're like, what, 25?
Yes, ma'am. I just turned 25.
Sweetie, please.
I
love
can't.
you
I'm
so
so
much.
sorry. I can't.
I know, it's so
Uh,
cute. I love it.
I
It's,
can't
it's,
help it.
it's
Can I
great.
say that's
It's
very American? Okay. The only people
Yeah.
who call me ma'am are American. I
I
love
love
it.
it so much. It gives me a tingle.
Yeah.
I mean,
My
like,
brother
I'm
has
30. I'm
Sorry, what were you
38.
saying?
I don't know if I want to have kids.
Karen.
I'm
What were you
44.
gonna say,
I've
Tia?
never had kids, so
Pardon, Karen?
Oh,
I've
okay.
never had kids or I've never been married, and I'm 44.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. I've only had
It's
2
different.
girlfriends, and they both ended in disaster.
I've had plenty of boyfriends, but they all
Yep. My son was in.
TR, meet
But I
Karen.
don't
Karen, meet
regret
TR. Love connection
Hi.
here tonight. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have to call it quits for the evening, but thank you for tuning in and listening. You can find me at loudmouthbrowngirl.com. You can follow Miss Karen at Karen Unruh, and I will make sure to tweet out everybody's Twitter so that you can follow them on Twitter as well. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. Please give yourselves a round of applause.
I so appreciate all of you, and I feel blessed to be in company with such brave,
Yeah, it's been lovely meeting you all.
really awesome.
I'm really glad I met all of you. I'm not alone.
No,
Yes,
you're
You're
not.
not
You're not.
alone.
Lovely.
Definitely not
Tia,
alone.
you're a
You're in the
sweetheart.
company of awesome people.
PR, you're
Yes.
such a sweet
Yay.
guy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
you're
love
lovely.
all of you.
Yeah, I love
You're
you
all
too,
very
guys.
awesome.
All of you.
Okay, so
Well,
eventually I'm going to figure out how to stop doing. Oh, there we go. All right, now I know
I'm
how to.
glad I finally got online. I was like, oh crap, I'm gonna miss this because of some stupid glitch. Anyway.
Thank you again, everyone, for coming. This was amazing. I love that we were able to talk so openly, and I love that we talked specifically about our professionals, because I think that it's important that we as patients continue to have these conversations and to talk about what is working and what's not working, because I think that we've been in the mental health conversation long enough now that we know, like, it's not an experiment anymore. We know what works for people, we know what doesn't work for people.
Yeah.
And it's time for mental health professionals to start forcing themselves, and I do mean that literally, to start working in a way that works for us. Because if you're
Yeah.
going to get paid to work on behalf of mental health patients, you need to be doing things that works for them, instead of just assuming that they're lying or calling them psychotic or telling them that their experience isn't good enough because you have book learning. You might have a fancy car and you might have a fancy office, but it doesn't mean that you know what it's like to live in our shoes.
Yeah.